Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We are coming at you from the Rail in Fort Worth, Texas, our new home. So thank you to the Rail for letting us host this out of here. But today we got another awesome band that I actually, probably in the more recent history of me like finding bands and stuff like that, they've probably been one of the more recent ones that I was pleasantly surprised by this band, and I'm excited just to get to know them a little bit more. But today we have Slow Drag in the house.
Hey man,
what up?
Introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, so we're Slow Drag. I'm Josh. I sing, and I used to play lead guitar. Now we got someone filling in for lead guitar, which is great. So now I get to be freed up and just get to do the things and be a front man. So that's the thing.
I'm Travis. I play bass and I do some backup vocals. And that's
Some.
Do a lot of the backup vocals.
He doesn't give himself as much credit as he deserves, but he does some good backup vocals.
Sick. Well, I want to get to first of all, the band hasn't been around for too long, unless I'm missing like a whole section of this band. But I think I saw the first release was back in 2024. Is that right? Okay,
January.
When does this band become a band?
So we actually just explained a little bit of this on a recent interview with Josie Records, but I'll let Travis kind of give a little more in depth on what really happened, because I'm a little more newer to the band. But
Okay.
Yeah. So pre-COVID, I was out on tour working in music, doing playback and video stuff, and I lost my job during COVID. And so, I ended up nailing down like a more regular job with regular hours. And so I was like, well, with this extra time on nights and weekends, I want to get back into playing music. And so, fired up the classic Craigslist and, threw some demos up on SoundCloud and started hunting for people. And, met Forrester, the drummer, and Sean, and very soon realized that we probably need a lead singer.
Okay.
And so kept hunting on Craigslist, and then because
I'm just kidding.
Because I'm an okay singer, I'm not a great singer.
Oh, so you were primarily going to do
I was
vocals
going to try
beginning.
it,
Okay.
and then the first couple practices, I was like, no, I don't think this is going to work. Let's get somebody. And so thankfully I found Josh really, really quick, and we went out and grabbed coffee, and we had similar influences, and we were aligned on what we wanted the band to be as far as how demanding and how intense we wanted to be with it.
Okay.
We agreed that the primary function, we just wanted to have fun. Before anything else, fun is the primary directive. And so I think we did a good job of maintaining that. But anyway.
I mean, I think now we're grown out a little bit of fun. We still try to keep it as fun as it can be, but being in the scene, you kind of have to do a little bit of work just to get shows and, have a little bit of recognition and build a little bit of community and stuff. So, as much as it is a fun hobby thing, we also put in the work that we need to do and, try to build a little bit of community within the DFW scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it has to do a little bit with the reception you've had with the music? I mean, because you guys came to my attention through a recommendation from somebody, which I think you guys work with him a lot. Brent.
Yeah.
So Brent actually I think I was trying to
Shout
start
out
streaming.
Shout out
to Landry. Yeah, straight up. I think I was it was the one and only stream I ever tried to do, and I was just listening to music, and he's listen to Slow Drag's new stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, and listen to him and I literally on the thing, I think it's probably still out there. I was like, this is fucking really good, and then it surprised me because then I immediately every time that happens, I go into what else do they have, and I'm like, oh, this just came out. It's not even, there's nothing else before that, and so
Sure.
I'm always very pleasantly surprised when I'm like, oh, there's nothing else out. This is the first thing they've put out, but it's it's really good. So I was really excited, and then I think I saw y'all perform for the first time at Tulips for the I know Fever Code was playing that, and we were talking to Jump Rope.
Jump
right?
Rope, yeah.
Jump Rope. Super fun show.
That was my favorite show that we ever played.
I think that was a vibe. That show was so fun. Shout out Breakup Season. And shout out everyone who was on that bill just in general. We met Awkward AF, Basics, Awkward AF, super fun, awkward guys, and love them. Jump Rope had just super great stage presence and stuff, and I loved their their sound check. If you I don't even know how to explain it. It's just the funnest sound check you've ever seen in your life.
Okay.
Shout out the sun because it was over 100 degrees.
Yeah,
we were playing outdoor
It
shows.
was outdoors. But there's something like
Texas.
So I think one of the first like shows I ever went to Tulips to that venue was like one of the spillover shows, and they had the stage inside, and this was before they had that little bar, but they had another one outside, and there was something about the vibe of that, just being out there and there was these incredible bands playing, and I'm like, it's so cool. So I do understand how it's like, oh, it's hot as shit out here, it's uncomfortable, but I don't know, something about that, just like being uncomfortable but having a great time, like I just fucking love it. Like music's just fucking great. But yeah, that was the first time I saw you, and I knew immediately, I was like, I gotta walk up and talk to one of these like dudes, like, and tell them about like just about doing something. And then that was a while ago, but I think Josh hit me back up. He's like, hey, you had mentioned this. I was like, you're right. That is my only problem with this podcast, is that like I'll find so many cool people, and then it's like, oh shit, that's right. Like we were supposed to be on it, and I'm like, and yeah, it's the one thing I do. But I love that y'all are that you have that transition, because like it's cool like to start stuff off just for fun, and if it stays like that, that's cool. But when you put a little bit have the want to put a little bit more work into it, it just means like there's more meaning in that for you, and you just push it. But I think that goal of like, it's got to be fun, it always has to stay in there, because once it becomes just an obligation,
absolutely.
And
here's the thing, so we put out a 6-song EP, right? And it was kind of like our fun project, whatever. It was a lot of songs that we kind of just put together, like trying to figure out like what our sound was, and we weren't like, we just knew emo, like that was it. That was like, we wanted to be emo, but we didn't know what, like, that's such a broad term, right? You got like Midwest emo, you got just regular old pop punk, you got
power pop stuff,
this, that, and the other power pop. Yeah, exactly. And so we just kind of like put 6 songs together of like what we thought we could write, and like made it happen. And
it's a little all over the place.
It is a little all over the place, and there's a little bit of...
It has its charm, though. Yeah, the first...
No, I think you're just touching on what I think every musician goes through when they write like their first thing, and then when you're on to like, okay, now there's a vision for this, like then you're like, oh, okay, this doesn't make sense, like the way we put this out, or like these songs probably shouldn't have been together. But I think that's the fun in like EPs and just putting out projects here. Like
100%.
I think you're not meant to be, but it's a lot. I think you can be a lot more lenient on like, these don't necessarily go together, but they're good songs. You know what I mean? So let's put something out. And I personally love it because you can see where a band's like working out what they're good at, what they want to just try out, and it's just. When I look at it that way, that's where like I find the fun in it. It's like, oh, here they tried this thing. Like this doesn't sound like it. But it's not as
start somewhere.
Yeah.
Like like for writer's block, like you just start writing. If you try to write something good out the gate, like you're not always going to achieve that. Not that we write the greatest stuff in the world, but you just have to start, and then you can expand and modify and you change things as you go. But just pushing yourself to put something out, to create, and then grow from that, because you can't just release a finished product, after 10 minutes of writing.
And I don't want to go on a like huge detour, but I think like
this
we
is
both
the place to do it. You know that, right? You know that.
All right.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's OC, your host for the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. And I know what you're saying. Another ad on this podcast. Yes, but this one, you can help support the podcast. You might be seeing these beautiful Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast hats here on the table, where they're not just for decoration. We're selling these hoes, okay? This podcast, I don't get paid for this, so I need some money. Let's try to do that again. Less desperate. These hats look very cool, and it would be very cool of you to buy one to put on your head and look even more cool than you already do, all right? If you want to tell people that you have impeccable taste, that you listen to all types of music, and you listen to the best podcast in the entire world or tri-state area, or maybe just this area here, this is the best podcast in this room, probably, then you should get one of these hats so that you can help support a local business and a local podcast, and so you can help support artists to come here and talk shit, okay? That's the whole point of this. But yes, go to NoiseROT.com to pick out your Chill Sounds and Breakdowns hat or other merch. We got stickers, we got pins, pick something up, and thank you for supporting the podcast.
So, big detour then. I mean, I know you, like, in your life kind of went on a detour musically in your life, and I went on a detour musically in my life. Like, I, was big, when I first started music, I don't know, I don't want to go into my big history, but, I started playing guitar and did emo music, did punk music, did freaking goth music, did everything under the sun, started doing hardcore, deathcore, like all that stuff, and was like super involved in the hardcore scene and had a lot of friends in that, and the, you know, IE hardcore scene and LA hardcore scene and stuff. And then eventually kind of, you know, started doing like worship music and like church stuff, and then, you know, all the emo stuff and the hardcore stuff kind of like went to the wayside, and then I started doing like songwriting and pop and R&B, and started getting some like random gigs like that. And so like for maybe like 8 to 10 years, I didn't really touch rock music in general.
Okay.
And so it's like crazy that like I think now, you know, in the last few years, so man, even more deep dive. So I'm from California.
Okay.
Came here to Texas. When I was here in Texas, I was like, well, fuck this. I don't want to do this stuff on my own anymore. And so I went on Craigslist, found this guy, and that's how I found Slow Drag.
That's fucking awesome. Like I've heard the Craig. Like I have a friend who. That was my first experience with people just hiring like or getting people off of like Craigslist, and I was like, I would have never thought of that. Like honestly, at the time, this was before, but yeah, like I didn't know like people were always looking. And then like once you start seeing like the pages pop up and everything, oh, people are always looking just like to play or like to be in something.
Varying degrees of success. Definitely had people like try to borrow money from me, and then definitely had a couple of those before running into Josh and Forrester and Sean. But yeah, that's my tried and true go-to thing for.
It's like here, I'll sing, but I just need to borrow some money so I can write this song.
He's like, hey man, do you want to buy all my instruments? I'm going to rehab, and I'm like, nope, no, thank you. He's like, hey man, I'm gonna have to get back to you in about a month.
Oh my god,
that's actually a true story.
That is a true
and when
story.
you told me that, I was like, how does someone have the audacity to ask that? Hey, like you meet someone over Craigslist and you're like, oh, I want to join your band. Oh, hey, I'm going to rehab. Can you like give me some money?
Like, cocaine's a hell of a drug, man.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
It's expensive, man.
And I don't know where that story was going when I said, oh, I don't want to go deep dive into my history and like talk about how we went into different directions, but somehow we ended up into cocaine.
You returned. You found back. That's how you guys found each other. I don't know what the original point, but I mean, it's
hell
fine.
Of a drug.
Hell of a drug, man. Okay, so you were primarily. I mean, you started the project, so you said you had some demos out there. Mm-hmm. How are you still remaining like the primary songwriter? Were you used to writing with like more people?
So I kind of sang and wrote out of necessity in all projects, you know, from like being 13 years old. Mm-hmm. And I started this project with the motivation to kind of be like primary songwriter. And, you know, I met Josh, and, you know, he started sharing some of the things that he was bringing to the table that were kind of counter to things that I would come up with. And, you know, there's this weird like pride ego thing that you have to wrestle with when you're working creatively with somebody. And he's laughing because, you know, we do like push back and forth, but I mean, it took me a minute, but the stuff that Josh comes up with is just, you know, so much more fun and interesting. And like, I'm having a ball just like playing more, you know, most of the shit that he's writing. And so I kind of like let go a little bit, and I'm having more fun for it because it's better for the band. It's not just about me and what I want to create. Mm-hmm. We're a group, we're a collective, and like working collaboratively means a push and a pull. And I found like that's way more satisfying in the end.
And I think, absolutely. Like, you know, I think he's a very modest. Like, he loves to say, like, you know, Josh came in and, like, he's such a good songwriter and blah, blah, blah. But I think, like, Travis, like, he, in his own right, like, he writes really good music, too. Like, Shelter was completely written by him. I maybe rewrote the bridge a little bit just because the energy needed to be a different vibe or something. But like, that's the cool thing about like collaborating together, is just being able to like come together and say like even though I wrote most of a song, and the same thing like happens when I've written like songs like Hollow Hill or Upside Down, like we kind of bring it to the table, and then he'll bring something out of me that I didn't think that I would have. And there's always this push and pull, like you said, like, no, like, I don't know if that's going to work. And then
I don't like that.
We try it. Or I have a lot of fun with post-production.
Okay.
And so I mix and master all of our stuff. And I came from a world of like songwriting and production and stuff. I used to try to make beats and stuff for people and worked with some pop artists and stuff. And so a lot of the influences come from that. So when I do post-production stuff, I bring it to the table and I'll put like trap hats and like random shit that everyone else just cringes at. Yeah. But I'm like, nah, you got to understand the vision, man. Like you got to.
I'm like, Josh, Josh, you have to take out the turntables. We can't have the turntables.
Say new metal.
Could be though.
But yeah, I think just going back to a lot of the charm comes from, I think both of us have a decent experience in songwriting. And so like just coming together and like pulling ideas together, and he writes some really cool songs too. Like Fairweather Season is one of my probably favorite songs that we've written, which is mostly him. Maybe, I don't know, what did I do on that?
It's like a half and half. Like,
yeah,
you know, the music and the guitar parts. Yeah, like that's probably the one that is most like, we both molded it rather than like presented a complete project to each other, you know, like.
And it doesn't necessarily like fit our sound today and like what we're going for. If you've heard like Struck Out and like another song that we're going to be putting out soon, but it still like has its charm in its own way. And it's like in that like, you know, realm of emo, but it's a little more like, you know, easygoing and happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
So we just kind of like had a lot of fun just writing a bunch of stuff, putting it together, collaborating with ideas. And now that we kind of, I think, understand what our sound, what we're doing better, we're focusing on
leaning into our strengths.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Or, you know, what we perceive to be our strengths.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, I think that's a big, like, what would you say? Like, accomplishment or like a hurdle you guys got over is the figuring out of like how to write together. You know what I mean? Because again, like you mentioned, and I hear it a lot, and it's cool to see when it works out, the having to put aside that ego part of it. It's like, okay, it still is tough. What I remember, like my experience with it was, the more someone argues back and forth, at least from what I understand, like it means you care about like what you're doing. You know, so like. So I've had it both ways. I've had like people just.
I think we're the two people that care probably a little bit more than the average hobbyist does.
Yeah. So. But that's what I'm saying. Like if someone's like, oh, like this isn't gonna work in this because of this, and that. It's like, okay, at least they have a vision of what they're talking about, rather than just being like the negative way of that, or just like, no, I just don't want that in there, or no, because it's not what I did, or no, there's a ton of other reasons. But if it's because at the end of the day, you're collaborating because you want to write a good song, like, then that's it. But you, in a band, especially a collaborative writing band, you have to be able to be like, okay, this song could be better if with an idea that's not mine. Like, and just coming to kind of terms with that.
Learning to say no, not like no, but like, I don't love that in a respectful way. And like, we were always, we're pretty free flowing with our opinions with each other, but it always comes from a place of respect, you know.
And we're very sarcastic assholes.
This is true. And so there's like a running bit in the band where like whatever you show me, I'm just gonna not like it for 3 days, and then I'm gonna come around and start enjoying it. So now I just started like not saying anything for 3 days, and then giving my opinion after 3 days, and it's usually like, okay, I like it now. And so
that's really funny because I have done that lately when people suggest music to me or something. I need to let it I go, okay, like. If you're waiting for me to listen to it right now and like send you a response saying like what I think about it, I'll probably not like it, or because like I for some reason feel like it's being forced on me, and I'm like, they're not gonna like what I have to say or whatever. Man, so I have to take a time.
Bands that like in middle school, high school, I wish I had deep dove into that I just didn't give the time of day because
if I didn't find it myself, then it's not cool.
Exactly.
That's what happens to me, and I have to admit it to myself. Yeah,
gatekeeping is not cool.
Yeah, I just always have to be like, all right, like it's just I need to listen to it in my own time, and like cool, like, and then but yeah, a lot of times like, oh, it's that, and it's again, it's weird, but it's part of like an ego thing where I'm like, yeah, I didn't find it like myself, so like I don't know if I'm gonna like it as much. So I'll have to like, oh, okay, like let me listen to it in my own time and like actually pay attention to it and then like it. But yeah, there is something to that. Again, putting that ego side and working. But yeah, learning to be respectful, which is cool to see that it worked out. I mean, pretty soon from what I can tell. But coming from like people who are just meeting each other like off of Craigslist, you know what I mean? Like, because chemistry is like the biggest thing that I always see like in bands, like that makes or breaks you. So coming from like. Because nobody knew each other, correct, in the band? Was it all?
No.
Craigslist?
Man. So I guess we all kind of come from different areas of the nation,
country, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm from California, born and raised, Cali boy, and our drummer's from Oklahoma, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And then
I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas, South
Okay.
Texas, and Sean is from St. Louis.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
our new guitar player Preston's
the only one who's from Fort Worth who's actually
from the
From
area.
here.
Yeah.
So we were kind of disappointed about that, but whatever. We'll give him a little bit
You're
of grace.
messing up the dynamic.
But, to your point, like we kind of once we found the right pieces, once we realized, oh yeah, we all like each other, let's get moving. We kind of hit the ground running. I've got like an audio engineering background, and Josh is a producer, and so we really kind of had the tools to push forward our creative vision without
Right.
like technological hhindrances.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's a big part.
And then, and I don't know about you, but coming from different areas, like we don't really have friends out here aside from what you've kind of gathered being here for as many years as you've been. But like, I don't have friends in the scene. I should say, back home, sure. But here I'm totally building a whole new community for myself, and so, I feel like we have a bit of a disadvantage as a band, but we're trying our best to just kind of network, build community, meet people, immerse ourselves in the scene, talk to other bands, and go to other shows, and just try to see what's going on around the scene in either Dallas or Fort Worth. And I feel like we start literally from ground zero and just trying to build what we have. And I think, even though, we have a bit of a following on Instagram and stuff and, on the platforms that we have, but, it's still a slow grind. Slow grind for slow drag.
For slow drag.
So, we're...
there's the benefit of like having a hometown, crowd, a hometown band,
right.
but like when it's nobody's hometown, you don't really have that inherent, following and that, advantage. And so we're pushing, we're grinding, we're trying to like immerse ourselves in the scene and make friends and go to shows and let the music speak for it, but also, try to make friends,
Yeah. And it's not like in a fake way. It's more just so like, we all come from a love of this type of music and the scene and stuff, and so I don't know, for me, I guess it's more like I want to meet people within the scene, and I want to kind of be in that community and like see what's going on here in Dallas and Fort Worth respectively, and even Denton's got its own scene that kind of pops off on its own, and it's completely separate, even though in California when it's an hour away it's kind of the same scene. Here it's its own scene, or it's
No, that's what I've come to realize, that I'm pretty spoiled in the DFW because of that. Because like Fort Worth's got its own scene, Dallas does, Denton, and they're all within an hour of each other. You know what I mean? Like, and they're completely like Denton has a variety of like stuff. I've seen a lot of like hardcore move back up to Denton like now, and it used to be like a lot of like indie stuff that was going on up there and things like that. But and then Fort Worth is just, I didn't even know there was a scene till like, I always like say I got super like late into the scene because like, I think I was like, I don't know, like in my mid 20s when I realized that there were like local bands and stuff like that, like playing here. I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing, until, I went to one friend's show, and then I started like a lot of the people that I know now, like I all met through that scene through like, so as far as like a home base that got it, like I didn't like, I think DJ, who runs NoiseROT, like as well, I think he was the first person I knew like in a band that played like shows, and I'm like, oh cool, but I didn't know him at the time. I knew a friend of a friend, like and like a lot of people that like I see now on the daily, like I met through just playing shows. So like the good thing here in this time, I think, of the scene is, at least in my experience, it's been the easiest it has been to like make friends in the scene. I think when I was coming up in it, it was a little. I'm so fucking oblivious to shit.
I always wondered.
I didn't know the competition thing, but
well, yeah. I mean, everybody, other pop punk bands, like everybody's just been so like welcoming and friendly and like willing to like get stuff going, you know, and, you know, if you can't make this show, like hit us up for the next one, that kind of thing. Like I've not really interacted with anybody that I wouldn't say was super friendly and cool.
Yeah.
You know? And growing up, like, and I mean, we've shared thoughts together too about even like promoters and stuff. Like growing up when I was back in, you know, high school and after high school, just trying to get in the scene and play music and stuff, you know, like it was way different. And coming back now, like I was very scared about like coming back into the scene and like, you know, trying to book shows and stuff and like what it was going to be like. And, you know, there were certain reservations that I had about playing shows that ended up, you know, not even being a thing anymore, that I was like, oh, damn, like the scene is alive and well. And
no
I don't
more
know,
pay to play, right? Like that was your big concern.
A lot of
getting
pay
started.
to play. A lot of pay to play was
Yeah.
like the big concern, because I came from a scene that was like riddled with, unless you had like a good small venue where everyone like gravitated towards, and we did have like a really good one in the hardcore scene. But if you weren't in that specific scene, you know, if you were trying to play like Chain Reaction or you were trying to play, you know, shout out Chain Reaction, legendary venue in my area.
It's what I've seen in all the live videos that I look up.
Played there one time. Played there once or twice. Fucking amazing place. Shout out. But you know, a lot of the venues out there back in the day were just like pay to play, or a lot of the promoters promoted that kind of stuff, and it was really difficult. It sucked. It beat you down. It tore you down, because, you know, at the end of the day, they were like, oh, you owe us money, or, you know, I'm never putting your name on the scene again, and I'm telling everyone not to book you. I literally had someone say that to me.
Wow.
There was one time, we were like, oh, our singer got a DUI, so we can't make the show. And he's like, you're never working in this town again, and blah, blah, blah.
People say that shit? That sounds like a fucking cartoon.
He didn't have a DUI. I still
Were
remember
you
that.
the singer?
No. I was the guitarist at the time. And that was just a lie, because we didn't want to play the show.
Yeah.
It was a shit suck show. And I won't say anything about the person or anyone.
Sure.
But that was like one of my biggest fears about like coming back into the scene after like 10 years of being out, you know? And all I was doing before was like songwriting and beat making and stuff. And like coming back into it, I was like, I don't know. Is it just for fun? Because I don't really want to do all this kind of crap. And
well, I wanted to. Josh had his apprehension about playing shows, and I was like, I want to play shows. That's where I get the most satisfaction out of it. And so I was really pushing for us to get our first show up and running. And our very first show, I was kind of like, oh no, Josh is proven right. This is going to be terrible.
Yeah, sure.
The morning of the show, I get an email from the promoter saying like, all the sound guys in town are sick, or down at South by Southwest. Like,
right
we don't have a sound guy
right now.
Yeah, it was March of 2024.
Yep.
And I'm a sound guy, so I'm like, all right, let me see what I can do. And so obviously get on Craigslist, find a sound guy to help me out, and we kind of put it together. I brought my own gear, and we played at Cheapstakes, and you know they don't have a built-in PA, so
and there
brought
were
all my
touring
stuff.
artists coming in for the show.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
yeah,
you know, like a small artist, but you know, touring in their own right. So
you want to like do a good job for you. Want to like give them a proper experience, right?
Right.
And so we got it over the line. Like it sounded good, and you know we played well, and you know definitely people didn't like throw rocks at us, and so it was overall pretty fun.
But
there is dirt.
To this day,
it is. Yes,
so they could find a rock.
Yeah, but you know it was such a fun time, and I was just like so thankful that like you know Josh being like, I don't think we're ready for shows, and then you know it not being terrible. I was so pleased that it worked out in the end.
But it was a hassle, man. Like day of no sound guy. Gotta find a sound guy. Then we get to the venue, and it's just like, well, where's all the equipment?
It's like in the walk-in freezer
no
or
one
something
here to
like
show
that.
us what's going on.
Oh
we had to
my
go
God.
into the kitchen, bring everything out, and
I was freaking out a little bit.
It was a great first show.
But, yeah,
Trial by fire, man. That's
Legendary.
how you learn how to work.
exactly.
Fuck. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you make it through that, there's all these like little like moments where everything fucking goes wrong, and then you realize like, do I want to do this shit? Or like, if I do, I'm gonna figure that shit out. Yeah, man,
I think we've been resourceful enough to just like whatever hits us, like we can make it work.
Had more than one sound guy cancel, you know, like the day before or something like that.
That's
and we
so
just
weird,
like
and we've played like
figure it out.
breweries where they have no sound, and we just have to like figure something out. And you know, I don't have a PA, or we don't have a PA and mixer and stuff, so we borrow something or make something work or rent something, and
Just make it work,
Yeah.
bootstraps, just like make it happen, right? Like,
I think we all have enough experience either playing shows or doing sound and whatever else that we can kind of make something work on the fly if we need to.
Yeah,
Give my wife the iPad and just these two these two buttons.
That happened one time.
If this is too loud, do this. If this is too loud, do that. And she's like, I got it.
All these examples, like those happen. Like, those stories aren't coming from thin air. Like we experienced that shit. Man, it just, you figured it out. But that's cool that even like you said, you're still building your community around here. Like even with each other, like you have enough resources to figure that shit out. You know what I mean? Like you have, just between y'all two, like the being able to, you were saying you're mix and master like everything in house, like puts you at an incredible like advantage. Like above,
if it
like,
sounds
everything.
good, sure.
Yeah,
That
sounds good.
I think it sounds decent. It's decent enough, and I think that's what we're going for.
Decent enough.
He's never going to be like, it sounds good. He's very self-critical. But
I think like, most like audio engineers or anyone that mixes and masters is always going to be like,
even just like the step up,
to grow.
From the EP to like Struck Out, which just came out, and even like the next single that we have coming out, like it's just such an immense step forward in quality, and like that is 100% Josh's doing. He'll send, I'll give him my notes. And so I do 0.001% of the helping out on the mixing and mastering, but like Josh has just like stepped up his game like hugely from the EP to the new singles, and so I'm stoked.
Thank you.
When I listen to the new shit, and so listen to it.
Listen to it. Listen to it. What's the new one the new one just dropped? What?
Struck Out.
Struck Out. And this is this what you think the band's like sound is gonna like kind of aim for this one? Because even before that you had a collab that I want to ask about, but right now like that new single that just came out, is this where you think like Slow Drag's going?
Yeah, I think definitely like our sound, and like I think we were explaining before, like our EP 6 songs was just kind of like experimenting with different emo styles and like what really fits our sound. And he wrote a few songs, I wrote a few songs, and we kind of collabed together and just kind of like tried to figure out what we were doing. And I think Struck Out was like the next step forward into just being fully, and I don't, like a pop punk, emo pop type band, the likes of like Neck Deep and State Champs and Youth Fountain and all the 2010s kind of pop punk style. And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything. We're just trying to have fun doing what we love and write music that comes from the heart. And I think especially these songs are, the last songs I kind of poured my heart into a different way, and maybe you did too, but more just like kind of general feelings, like, just word salad, like this is what I feel, and I'm depressed and sad. And, but
this is true. Yeah.
These songs are more like, have more of a vision of like, we're growing up and we're people, and we're both married men. One of the other guys in the band is engaged as well. And, so it's just kind of like growing up into your 30s and trying to understand who you are as a person. And maybe you didn't have the best upbringing, and maybe you didn't have the best examples in your life to show you what love, relationships, work, business, being a man, being a person in life is. And these songs, I think, are kind of like going through that. And maybe we'll get into it a little later if we talk about the next song that's coming out in April. But all of these songs have a little bit of a theme that is going to kind of play out in the next few songs that we're going to be releasing in the next few months or over the course of this year. So these next songs and next project now have like a tying, maybe like thematically, somewhat, that we're kind of like noodling around with, and it's
more
like
focused for sure. I think we were kind of just trying to work with what we had with the first EP, and now we're taking our time. We wanted to put out a 6-song EP, which means you have to write and record and produce 6 entire songs before you put anything out. And so here, we have the advantage of time where we're kind of just focusing on one song at a time, like really making sure that we fully digest what we're trying to convey in the lyrics and in the music, and just pouring all of our energy into one song and making sure we're saying exactly what we want to say, and it's sounding exactly how we want it to sound before moving on to the next thing.
Oh, okay.
And so we're kind of just doing one song at a time right now, and I feel like the music's benefiting greatly from that focus.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So focusing on one song at a time, completing it, and then moving on to what the next subject. Interesting. Okay.
For the most part, I mean,
There's some overlap,
Granted,
for sure.
we've had some overlap, and there's ideas being thrown around here and there, but I think the general focus is like, okay, we have this song, it's got a good direction, let's go with this one, and then we have this next one that we've kind of been noodling around with. I think it's got a good sound, good direction. Let's get that one next, and then we have these other two on the back burner that we're gonna start working on and stuff that are pretty much fully written, but they just need that next little level. And so, we're just kind of like working through things one at a time, but trying to be consistent with our releases. And at least for me, and I don't know about for you, but I think I'd rather focus on just the output. And like, granted, you want quality over quantity, but I also want to be consistent and like not overthink things, because I think as a producer and a beat maker, like I've always overthought things and like not released music. Yeah. And so when I was trying to be a solo artist and stuff, and I was, making like MGK type beats and stuff and trying to put them on YouTube and stuff and sell them, or like doing like R&B and pop stuff and like doing solo, recording stuff in my bedroom, and nothing ever came out of that because I was so overly critical and like not trying to like put it out because I was like, oh, it needs to be perfect. And now I think decent enough, as I said before.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we want to put our best foot forward, but also like, does it need to be overthought to the finest detail? Like, I would rather much have the vibe fit than to overthink a certain lyric or to overthink a certain part of the song and be like, oh, that could have been so much better if we had just done this. But at the end of the day, I think most bands just kind of let it play out the way it is and what vibes and what feels good. And so I think that's kind of like where our focus has been mainly, is just trying to get things out this next year.
It's better to be decisive a lot of the time than perfect.
Right. And that also means scrapping things if they're not, up to par.
True.
This is true.
Or like scrapping, shelving stuff for like later, like maybe it just doesn't work now, like maybe I'll figure it out later. And it happens where you're like, oh, this song I wrote or started writing, 3-4 years ago, and it just now made sense. Like now I can figure it out. But
100%.
There's two things. One is you hyper focus and like you're like I can figure this out now. And I was in a band and I was a vocalist, but when I finally hit a stride in it was like I decided, like, if it's too difficult to write, like I'm just not gonna write it. Like I'm just gonna let it like sit aside, like it doesn't need to be written, because if I sit there and try to force it out, like I'm gonna write something I don't like. Like, and it's just not calling for it right now. But yeah, there's that decisiveness. You have to just like kind of move, decide when something's good enough, if it's good enough for you, like to put out. But especially being like a band starting out, like output is very important, like because there's so much stuff coming out.
For sure.
And you can shoot yourself in the foot really early on, just trying to be a perfectionist and not release anything. So
yeah,
you just run
I
out
learned
of steam.
from that. Yeah,
precisely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do want to dive into what you have planned. You said you like wanted to maybe talk about that other song that's about to come out and maybe see what the tiny things are.
Yeah,
it's a little more of a ballad. This is it's a little got some more piano. Josh, coming with the production. We've got some piano. We do play. We have like backing tracks and production elements that we bring into our live show, which we get to have a lot of fun with.
But we could totally play without backing tracks if we needed to on the fly. So we're not that kind of band that's like, oh, we're not going to play the show if there's no backing.
It's meant to embellish, not to lean on. Yeah. Right. It's not a crutch. It's meant to like add, not subtract.
Right. It's basically like,
I,
from a producer standpoint, like I want the crowd to hear everything that I put into the song. So we put it in the backing track so that you can hear them. And if it's like random things that like either, we don't have the microphones for everyone to sing, or, everyone doesn't have the talent to sing in the band. So if there's like random like, wah, in the song, then I just want that to be heard over the speakers, but it's not like a focal point, so... but at the end of the day, like we've proven in the last few like rehearsals where I've forgotten the laptop or forgotten certain things for the IEM rig, and
we can do it.
We can do it.
Yeah,
we could be those guys.
I did playback. Like I ran tracks for artists out on the road before, in my former life, and so it is a lot of fun to kind of redo and
you
build.
Want to name drop someone?
I mean, I went out. I toured with like. Young kids might not know these guys, but like I was out on the road with the Backstreet Boys for a while. I went around Europe with Tears for Fears and TLC.
Damn,
I don't know that one. Damn,
that's wild.
And so,
and
so it's fun to like,
name drop these.
No, I don't like. I don't like to like name drop stuff.
You see why I asked for the name?
Yeah. So it's nice to like.
I literally was sorry. I was like, I hope I know these people. And it's like Backstreet Boy. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
I don't like. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I try to like.
People.
I'm not trying to. Yeah.
Just had to throw that one out there.
I get to use my playback chops. Putting together the rig or like building the in-ear monitor rig for us, and like I get a lot of satisfaction out of like that technical side of it as well. And so that provides a lot of satisfaction is building all that stuff. Anyway,
we're somehow going to talk about the new song.
Yeah, I don't know.
The backing tracks.
I was just thinking about this.
There's a piano in the song, so apparently we got to do backing.
We're not focused.
He actually got mad at me on Saturday for trying to bring an acoustic guitar to a live show because it was just too many instruments to bring on stage. So I can't. So we have to do backing tracks because I can't bring a piano now.
But the new song.
It's okay. Let's announce it. So new song. It'll be out on the 8th of April, I believe, is the release date. It's called Kintsugi, which is an art form in Japanese culture, which is taking broken pottery, putting it back together and using gold powder inside of paint to paint the seams to make it more beautiful than it was before. So I kind of had this theme of a song to talk about, a relationship and how you kind of get broken down by someone all the time, and it's like just shattering you on the ground, but at the end of the day, like, you are a strong person, and so you can put yourself back together. And one of the lyrics in there is, "My heart of gold will fill the men's," and that's part of Kintsugi, is like using the gold to fill the men's of the pottery and making it more beautiful. So it's a cute little theme and whatever, but nice little ballad song, really channeling our inner like Mayday Parade.
Very much.
He's a huge fan of Mayday Parade. And just that like early 2000s emo. There's a nice little kind of Owl City and Hello Goodbye kind of like throwback moment in there where it goes very like, chiptune and auto-tune for a quick little second, totally on purpose. I don't need auto-tune. My voice sucks, but I don't care.
That's so funny.
I don't need the auto-tune, but I will let my voice suck. That little moment, I just wanted that nice little like fine auto-tune where it sounds like Owl City and it's bringing a little bit of nostalgia back.
Yeah.
It's a good song. Like this.
Yeah.
This is like another one of like
not to blow our own horn or anything. But
this is like another Josh Viscara joint, and like he brought it. He brought it to. Excuse me. He brought it to the table, and I was like, I don't like it. I don't like all this piano shit. And then like I found like more I listened to it, and I'm like, oh man, I fucking love this. Like the head bobbiness of something is like my only metric for whether I like something or don't like it. And so if I like, subconsciously
stank face,
start bobbing my head, and I was like, by the end of it, I'm like, oh man, this is a really good song. This is awesome. And so I'm just like stoked to be fucking playing with this dude. So
yeah.
And we got another song that he wrote too. That's going to be, we're in the middle of recording right now too. So I love that song personally. Like, I think it's such a heartfelt, cool, fun, vibey song. So don't, give yourself some credit too.
I am awesome too. I don't want y'all to think I'm not awesome too.
We're just gonna have a whole section where you like just do affirmations.
Just pat myself on the back.
All the songs are coming out, guys.
Yeah, all of them. We're releasing them right now. A lot of questions there, but one is, so you're talking about that art form. I'm not gonna say because I'm gonna say it wrong, but
Kintsugi.
Okay. Did you have what inspired what is basically where I'm going to? Like, I feel like Were you thinking about like the art form and be like, oh, that's kind of interesting, or
no? So let me take you into my writing process as of late, because it goes into this song and into a lot of the songs that we've been kind of noodling around with lately. So a lot of times on my way to work, got a long commute. I'm driving from mid-cities to, almost Dallas area. So I got maybe like 40 to an hour of commute there and back. So a lot of times on the road, just listening to music, listening to podcasts, or random lyrics come into my mind. And I'm just like, maybe that'll be cool. So I'll just like turn everything off, start humming a little tune. Either it's a melody or it's some lyrics that like I thought were gonna be catchy, or I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, and it used to be like, that's a TikTok lyric. We're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And now it's more so like, oh, it's just a catchy lyric, not a TikTok lyric. It's just catchy. Like I want to lean more into that. So lately I've been kind of, and this song is one of them where I think I was just on the road and I was like, na 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 na, and I just kind of like was like noodling around with some ideas, and then kind of thought of some lyrics that would go good. And it's not necessarily that I'm like totally like, oh, I'm gonna make this song about this exact topic, like I'm feeling this and I want to write this. When I try to do that, for me, it doesn't really work. Or I tend to overthink things and then never finish them. So now I'm just more leaning into like what comes to my head, and coming from like the pop songwriting and R&B songwriting background that I had, it's just kind of like, let's just dig into like what sounds good and I'll make the feeling with it. So like this song was kind of like, I had ideas of like what the lyrics could be, and I was like, okay, I relate to that. How could I relate that to my life and, either relationships, growing up, or, my marriage now. And I think a lot of, kind of what we're writing of like the experience of growing up and being elder emos, because I think that's, what we cater towards. Although we're a little bit nostalgic, we're also not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we're trying to be a little bit progressive and like just not being like the nostalgia band.
Yeah.
So the emotions are there, so we know like what the goal is, but just like trying to fit it into like how it fits into our life. So I'll think of something, like the lyrics in this song had to do with, see, I know that you think you figured me out through all of the days you filled me with doubt. So it was kind of like, and you took your better part of me and smashed it on the ground. And it was just kind of like, I was like, oh, smash it on the ground. Like that reminds me of this art form of, of pottery being broken on the ground. And so then the lyrics started coming. I was like, oh, how do I relate this to gold? And how do I relate this to, I was like, oh, pop punk lyrics, heart of gold. That's totally cool. Like people are going to vibe with that. So that, like it was just kind of like a mix of like, I think of something that I know is going to sound good, and then I form the lyrics to that while also building myself into it, and trying to think of what the future of that song is going to be.
I do get a lot of like voice memo recordings of Josh in the car. Like
Yeah.
a lot of like our relationship is just singing in our cars and then sending each other shit. And so, the verse,
for worse.
yeah, the first verse is Struck Out. I got in a car singing voice memo like a year and a half ago, and I was like, don't get it. But then now, like, it's one of our favorite songs. So,
and we actually posted a reel on Instagram recently of like how that came together, and it was like, I had a voice memo on my phone, 2022, and it was like, the starting lyrics of the song, and it was just like something that came to me, and I was like, I'll shelf this, maybe it'll become something. And then we started writing this song, Struck Out, and I had the intro, and I kind of had the vibe of what I was going for the song. And when I heard that first, like, there's like a little break, and then it goes into a nice little punk beat, and I was like, oh, that lyric that I had would go perfect here.
3 years
and it fit absolutely perfect. Like, 3 years later. So here we are, Struck Out.
That's sick. Did strike out. That's fucking cool. I think people like vocalists is one of the mandatory things is your phone is filled with like voice memos or all sorts of stuff like any app. I don't know why I used to use Snapchat a lot. for some reason, it was quicker for me to get to it, and I would just record a video. And it was always like the floor.
No,
it was never my face. It was always like the floor or the wall, and I'm just like singing.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Doing?
No, that's such a good way to use that.
Yeah, I just had like the quickest, like what was the quickest way to get an app, and I think I set it up in my phone to be like the quickest like app that I could get to, so I could record stuff. That's really cool. Honestly, like you tackled a lot in your songwriting process, from like not just hyper focusing on one thing of like it needs to be catchy. It's like, okay, like I want to write a catchy part, but I understand that I also like want to make sure it makes sense to me, like why like this, and then tying in like, you know, this song, the new songs particularly, like this art form, be like, okay, now I can tie it into this, like, and use this for the imagery part of it, which is so sick. Like it involves like a lot of different aspects of like writing and just general, because you could go just point of view, like this is my experience with it, but like the added imagery of it is as just like another layer, another level. I know, I think we've all had like little moments where you're like, oh, like that's why like he said this, because it's it makes sense with this. And then catchy stuff is just as much as like I think initially like, oh, this is a TikTok lyric, might be perceived as like something negative or something, whatever.
Right.
And I remember, because I used to always all the time be like,
and I've got some bad ones.
yeah, no, it happens. But like it's got this like negative maybe connotation where it's like, oh, like it's you know, it's dumb, or it's like just like this poppy thing. But I mean,
I think you got to take care of, and you know, something that I heard about, you know, some of the bands that I love, you know, in the pop punk scene, like State Champs and In Our Own Words and Neck Deep, is that they don't just think about, you know, it's pop punk, but you know, everyone thinks like, oh, it's punk, so it needs to be aggressive, and it needs to not have all these boundaries, and it needs to not sound pretty and polished. But I love some of that, and like I come from the punk rock scene, and I've been in like hardcore bands, and I've been in like street punk, hardcore punk bands, not like hardcore like dun 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 dun, but like hardcore punk bands. And you know, when I was growing up, and so like there's all these influences that come into the music, but I think nowadays, like I want to think about the songwriting. I want to be intentional about the melodies. I want to be intentional about you know, and to our detriment sometimes, about every single part that goes into the song, because I want it to be palatable to the listener nowadays. You know, there's definitely room for unpalatable music that I would love to make, but I think now in the stage that I'm in, and the music, you know, the lyrics that I want to convey, I think and I think we put it in our bio, is that it's like raw and aggressive, but it's also polished and pretty. On the inside, you know, we're punk, and we've got this raw, aggressive sound, but on the outside, we're, you know, like we're the pop punk pretty boys. We're the Mayday Parades. We're, you know, the My Chemical Romance without the dramaticism and the opera, but
you know, it's a balance of like, we've got a lot of like punk beats and like classic punk elements, but then we've got like Josh's like, you know, pop production flair laid over the top of it, and it kind of like is a nice hybrid of the two kind of disparate sounds. And I think it kind of comes up with something a little unique and kind of fun and cool.
And sometimes the things we do don't work, but you know, sometimes it's like definitely like, oh yeah, we mixed polished and pretty,
like
with
throwing auto-tune in,
aggressive.
you know, one of the songs, right?
Listen to the next song.
Yeah, that's all it is, though. Like when you make a band, you get to do all that shit. Like you get to like ignore or follow whatever rules that you want to. Like, oh, I like this part of it, but I don't want to do that. Sure, you can fucking do that. You know what I mean? Like that's what I fucking love. Like, and I think maybe sometimes like you grow up in a certain thing where like it's gotta be built this way. Otherwise, like, you know, the fan base that I you know, that I've been a part of is not gonna like it. But then like with how much music is out and how many different things people are trying, like there is a fan base for all of it.
Yes.
Like for all of it. So if you want to try some shit that's gonna make you happy, fucking do that.
There's no reason to box yourself in anymore.
It's so fun to, and then if you want to, just like, you know what, I do like this box, I want to use that one. Fuck it, use that one. You know, like, but it's all part of it, and it's all super cool. Like when you try those things. And, you know, you learn about different influence, because you talk about like, oh, you know, you're talking about the Mayday Parade influence, like, and it's weird, but like for me, that's one that I missed. I missed Mayday Parade altogether. And a
lot of people did, to be honest.
Yeah,
like,
I just
they're
recently
not the biggest in the emo pop punk scene.
I was just
but
a
they're,
really
like,
sad high schooler, and so I was just sad about girls throughout all of high
that's the
school.
thing, like,
and so Mayday Parade was right up my alley.
And I think that's what I like more now. And then I think I saw them in Austin like 2 years ago, and then I went to when we were young, and then they played there, and I saw them again. But then my fiance is the one that like grew up with them, and I was just like, okay, like. And he's like, yeah. She would always tell me, like, there used to be this other singer, blah, blah, blah. And then I would listen to the first record, and I'm just like,
God,
oh, my
Jason
God.
Lamb.
And I'm like, who is that guy? I go, 'cause I was complete. Then because I was like, yeah, they sound really great live. But hearing that album, that first, Lesson in Romantics, I'm just like, who is this other
Where's that
fucker?
guy?
Like, yeah,
Where
where's that guy?
did he go?
I was like, holy shit, this is really. And I like listened to that front to back. I was like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, this is fucking great. You know what I mean? This is perfect. But as someone who, like, let's say for now, like, if I wanted to, I just found that. So like if I was like writing music like right now and be like, you know what, that's fucking cool. Like sure, it already happened, but I would like, how do I incorporate that now? You know what I mean? And again, no one can tell me not to.
I think a lot of people are doing that. Like, you know, our first show we played with an artist who, you know, is a younger kid, and he pulls a lot from, you know, like the emo scene, but you know, he does a lot more modern production style elements to it. So you know, I'm sure, you know, a lot of the stuff, like, you know, like you said, like, I'm so inspired by Mayday Parade, but he's a younger kid who's like, I want to do stuff like that. So there's the new kids who are also doing, you know, they're mixing stuff like Mayday Parade with other stuff that they grew up with, which may also be trap, and that's where you get like the MGK style pop punk, and, you know, even, you know, I mean, I could deep dive into artists like Bones, who did, you know, the old school trap emo stuff with Lil Peep, or not with Lil Peep, but like, you know, other artists like Lil Peep and stuff who did all that stuff, who inspired these artists. Then they found the rock artists who eventually did it in the 2000s, and then mixed this whole thing. I don't know. It's just so cool to see all these different things, and the new kids kind of just like picking up these things and either making it their own or not even caring and just repeating it. And even for us, like, I think we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we're just writing music that we love, and there's a sound that we gravitate towards, and that's what comes out. So,
yeah, and I think you just naturally will add some sort of progressiveness to it, because yes, you could be like that's your main influence, but it's still, how does it influencing you? That's not the only influence. You also have stuff from now that's gonna. So what can I put again? Like I mean, they fight you on it, but like the trap drums or the, you know, stuff like that is just like, why don't we just try? You know, maybe it doesn't always fit or work or whatever, but the idea to do that like is there. Like, oh, like, what if we just try something just a little bit different? You know what I mean? Like, give it a shot. I don't know. I'm a fan of people trying weird shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to get it, and I get that now. That's where I'm at now. Like, I think I always feel like I say it every podcast. Like, yeah, like I used to be a real like big hater on shit that I didn't understand, and now that's all I get. Is like I just don't get it. Like, but that's fine.
And I think we're in a space now musically, like in every scene, where so many artists are doing crossover music, or you know, you got bands like Sleep Token that do like R&B style metal, or you know, like Spirit Box, or Bill Murray, who does
like country
metal.
If you would have told me that years ago, I'm like, that was so stupid. Like, and then like now that like, it's one of my favorite artists.
It works. That's one of my favorite albums of that year.
And so just don't box yourself in. Like, just live your dreams. Do what, if you think it's gonna sound cool, just do it. Even if it doesn't in the moment, one day you might figure out the way to make it work. Yeah. Like, you know, I'm sure someone said, I'm gonna make a country metal song 20 years ago, and it sounded like shit. The second Bill Murray did it, you know, nowadays it
works.
Awesome, and it works because, you know, there's been all this accumulation of different styles and genre mixes where now it's possible to be able to do these crazy, eccentric things, you know. And I can even give credit to like bands like The Chariot, who were doing like crazy screamo, hardcore, electronic mix stuff, who inspired so many of the bands today. And, you know, even some of, I could go into so many things, but, you know, a lot of those bands who just were out there and crazy and dared to defy the rules. Sky Eats Airplane, who had so many electronic,
that's literally what came to mind.
Yeah.
You know, Attack Attack, obviously, who was Bill Murray, or, you know, one of the, so, you know, a lot of those definitely play into our influences, and I love the Postal Service. My wife loves the Postal Service, so I try to bring a lot of that chill electronic vibes into our music as well, a little bit. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
that's cool. You don't have to go
moving
anywhere.
all over the place.
That's the beauty of podcasting, man. You don't have to go nowhere. We're just talking for however long. You mentioned like you guys do work social media like in a cool way. Like I like the little like bits and stuff like that. But how do you, coming from like y'all have been in the music like business industry like for a while. How do you think that's evolved with music, and how do you feel like you place in it?
Well, so it's tough because I've listened to a couple episodes on your show, and this theme comes up a lot. In that, like, whatever the most, there's not a better way to say it. For some reason, the most humiliating content seems to like perform the best. You try to do like this serious and creative stuff, not serious, but like even fun. And you're like, oh, this idea is going to work. And you put it out there and like, it just falls flat. Yeah. And then like you pick up on like a TikTok trend and then you like emulate that. And like that does, 10 times more traffic and drives followers and stuff. And, it's a hard pill to swallow, looking at the reality of like what promoting music on social media is nowadays. But we're like reluctantly embracing that and trying to like not completely compromise ourselves, but like still, use these tools to our advantage.
Let's talk about it. Like, so, I mean, you mentioned like looking at our social media. So is there anything like specific that maybe you like caught on to that we were, either doing now or before that maybe? Because I would like to pinpoint, I guess, and see, what people are thinking about. Because we've done a lot. We've done like from basic to cringe.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how much you've looked on our social media, but was there anything that like you specifically like looked at that you were like, oh yeah, cool.
I'm trying to remember specifically.
And if not, you can cut this out.
No, it's fine. No, I don't think I have like a specific
like,
thing.
Oh shit, no, he called me out.
I definitely don't. No, I definitely don't have like a specific thing. But I've seen like a couple things pop up, and I know like tiny little skits like I always find interesting, but I always know that that's what I'm drawn to. Like that's not specifically to
and that's
musicians.
Kind of what I was going.
I go, that's just me particularly. Is that that's like what I've always like loved. So when somebody does it, like it catches my attention. It's not necessarily like what's fuck. You think about it like what's a band doing skits for?
Sure.
But like, it draws attention and it draws you to like that. So that's me specifically.
So that's what, and I was hoping you would say something like that, because what I was trying to get to was, around September of last year, we played our last show of the year because me and my wife had our daughter in October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so, that's the source of all our music is, life and growing up and trying to be a healthy, emotional adult, but not being able to. But, during that time, I think, shoot, where was I going with this?
September content.
And September, the content. Okay, there we go. So September, the content, we kind of like became a little bit of a cringe factory in that like I wanted to see what would actually work. And so like we started doing content when we first built our presence on Instagram, trying to figure out what was going to work, and growing up at the MySpace days and, having bands on the MySpace days and even the Facebook days, trying to emulate some of that stuff and trying to figure out, because we're totally new to this again. Like at least me, I haven't been in a band in 10 years, maybe. So like trying to figure out like how it works again was, difficult, but also like, I had an idea because I see, obviously I'm on Instagram, or I'm only on Instagram. So I see what certain people do. So just trying to like emulate some of those things, but also not trying to become complete D-bags and doing dumb crap. But I think like I wanted to prove a point to myself more than anyone to see like what actually works. Yeah. So I knew I was going to go on paternity leave. I knew we were going to go on a break. we needed to build some content to keep us through that time before, the new year and before we release new stuff and start playing shows again. So me and our drummer just kind of went out. I built a list of like random things that I thought would be dumb, funny, what would trend on TikTok or maybe not, who knows, but just like random ideas that I was like, what would a pop punk starter pack video or like something like that, So we filmed a bunch of videos out at a park, and some of them were cool, some of them were dumb, some of them were just like lip sync videos, because that's, kind of somewhat how people discovered artists last year, and I think that's kind of going away now. But we did a few of those and stuff, and just trying to see like what got better reaction. And I'll tell you, I'm not fucking sure. Because it's such a crapshoot. It's like, you put a certain thing out and it's like the cringiest video and it does so good. Or you do one that has nothing to do with your band. Like, we had a few.
Oh, God. We had this meme that Forrester made, this funny short little video, and it got like 2 million views and like 500,000 like shares and whatever. We absorbed a lot of followers from that. That only drives so many plays, right? When it's not related to your music. And so there's like the trade-off of like, how far away from the music do we go? Like not all traffic is good traffic, Right.
And we tried doing like, okay, well, how do we implement our music into these types of content trends? Yeah. And those don't do very well because it's not trending audio. And so, there was a lot of things, and we've tried to do like the heartfelt content, like behind the scenes. And I think for just, who we are right now, I don't think it really hits yet because people don't really know who we are,
Yeah.
We've had a few shows last year. We're starting to do a few shows this year again. And, we've built a little bit of a following, but not like this big cult, following quite yet, if we do. But I think there's just this kind of like area where we're trying to understand like how do we reach out to the people within this scene and how do we make it heartfelt and long lasting. So we've done a lot of content, and I think now we're kind of just like focusing on, or at least my vision, and I'm the one who kind of like steamrolls everyone with vision. So my vision is to do like themed content. And so if you've seen like the lead up to Struck Out, we wore some little sheet ghost costumes with a beanie or whatever, and we're doing some like baseball type antics and stuff. And so I think we're just trying to lean into like having some kind of imagery that supports who we are, but not be this cringe factory of like, look at me dance on TikTok.
Yeah.
And, so I think it's a healthy balance.
It's good.
Bernie,
this is good content.
We're clipping
This is good content.
All right.
Playing a new song over it. That's just that over and over.
Okay.
Frontman moves. Frontman moves.
Yeah, come see us this Saturday, 3/22. If this
probably is going to
definitely
after that.
Okay. Yeah. Come see us.
I'll cut that out, and we can post that.
2 days ago. Come see us if you want to see those moves next time. But I think it's just like trying to balance like what it means to be a band in this day and age, and also like not compromise. It sucks because like I am a goofy guy. I am a funny like goofy guy. Like I used to do videos when I was young and skate videos and stuff, and we do like fake commercials. So I do have a little bit of background, and obviously on back in the MySpace days, me and my bands would do like vlogs and like super not serious like vlogs that people would take seriously, that were like, oh no guys, we were kidding. But people just didn't get it. And so like I've always kind of like had this little factor in me of like being a little bit of a showman. So there is a little bit of that in the content, but I think now that we kind of put out that cringe factory, time period that we did, I think we understand a little bit about what works better. And especially like seeing other themes in other bands, that are doing more stuff that are just like, and I think what works for us right now that we've started doing is just putting up live clips of us. And shout out to Landria. He comes to all of our shows and takes some videos and takes photos and stuff. And after every show, we have, you know, a few video clips to be able to pull together and put into some content. And I think like now we're trying to do things where it's like not necessarily like lip sync, like, hey, look at my band, but it's more like, hey, we're Slow Drag.
Yeah.
This is what we look like on stage. This is the song that we just put out. If you like us, cool. If you saw this, cool. If you want to follow us, please do.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot more stuff like that. And then the themes, again, like I said, I think all of our new music has a bit of a theme of like growing up. And the song Kintsugi has a lyric that I love that says, allowed the ghosts inside of our house until they spilled out of the room. Or allowed the ghosts inside of our house until they spilled out of the door. And it's about like in this relationship where you just allow all these things from your life to like come in and take residence in your home. And until your house is full of all these ghosts. And, you know, I like to think of like back in the day when you think of like them like opening up the cupboards and like all this crazy stuff. You know, you hear stories of like ghosts doing crazy things, opening the doors and throwing things across the room. And so I had this vision in my head of like the songs coming up are all of these are dealing with all of these ghosts that are inside of our house. And so all of these things that we bring into our relationships or into our job or into our life just in general, all of the ghosts that we've collected or the skeletons in our closet, as some people would like to say, you know, we keep these and we hold on to them. We allow them to take residence up in the home and we think they're friendly. But really it's a disturbance in the home and in your relationship and in your work and in your life and in, you know, your happiness or whatever it is. And so, I think that theme we want to keep diving into with content and stuff, and just it's dumb and it's like, you know, it's a bunch of 30-year-old men in ghost costumes running around swinging bats and stuff, but at the same time, like it's a little bit of a visual that like kind of resonates and like makes you think of who we are if you continue to see it.
Yeah.
So leaning into more of stuff that like you would recognize, oh, that's Slow Drag, the guys with the ghost costume, or that's Slow Drag, guys who do fun pop punk music.
Yeah, and then, I mean, there's at least some sort of correlation to why that you're doing that. Oh, it's because thematically, it's
Right.
even though
There's
this
an inner
seems
theme
like,
to it.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, yes, maybe this is silly looking or whatever, but like, this is why, you know what I mean? There's a tie-in to like the serious part of like the music and it's that. But no, I think it's a weird, like, plane to navigate. Like, it's learning, it's seeing what you want to do. Like, sure, you figure out what stuff works, but it's like, I don't want to like be known for that. You know, I've seen it all the time for like people who do like this one trend and then realizing like months later, it's like, oh, they do music. That's why they were doing this, and not realizing that because it's like this trend that they hopped on. That's what I know you. And then when you try to do your music stuff, it's like, oh, like I don't want to.
That's not what we're here for.
Yeah. So that's a tough part.
And I think when we started out, we tried to do a lot of like the follow and unfollow type thing. And I like to go back to the MySpace days, and I still like to bring it up and be like, in the MySpace days, we used to do this. And so the follow unfollow thing, like we started doing, but you know, it didn't really drive a lot of attention to our music. It was more like passive people just like, oh, we followed you and maybe you'll do something one day, but who knows? But also the algorithm works against you nowadays. So it's like you really have to fight for attention for the people that you just gained a following for. So now I think like we're going back to like how we market and how we try to advertise ourselves. I think now, and what I'm trying to push is really just trying to build community, talk to people, comment on other bands' posts, and just say, hey, I love this. Like, you know,
go to local shows.
Yeah, go to local shows, talk to people, talk to other bands, and, you know, try to support them, try to get them to support you as well, and, you know, try to, you know, build each other up within the scene, and really just, you know, not just put out content to do it, because content can only get you so far if you're looking for like a viral, you know.
Yeah. You got to turn them into music listeners, showgoers, and like that's a tough conversion. But if you're just bringing people to the page because they like some trend you did, like that's not gonna that's not like who you're looking for. Sure,
For
like
sure.
it'll look good on paper that like you have these followers, like, but are these people going to like?
If your goal is to like have people listen to your music and connect with it and have an emotional response, like some bit is not gonna, move towards that end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you like comment on a band's post or like reply to someone's comment on someone's post and just be like, hey, like, relate to them. Not necessarily fishing for something, but just relate to them and be like, yeah, like I totally agree with that. Like, dude, I love this song. It changed my life too, or something. Or comment on a band's post and be like, this song changed my life. And, and like truly mean it. Don't just go out there fishing
it's
for
just
something.
Truly relating
like,
to stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Eventually one day, maybe one of the bands will be like, oh, so happy to hear you say that. And then you have an in to say, oh, yeah, like totally, like, then you can DM them at that point and kind of, say like, I'm so glad that you commented on, replied to my comment and be like, you guys just like mean so much to me, and then build a conversation and not ask for anything. But just build community, and then maybe one day that'll pay off.
Yeah. No, yeah, one of the things that I think I saw was like the commenting thing. Somebody was like, you need to be commenting on 100, I think it was when I launched a TikTok. 100
And
TikTok.
there's so many things like that,
yeah,
too.
But the thing that I took from it was he was like, it can't be random. Like, it can't be just you going through everyone and saying some dual shit. I go through it. It's like, it's going to take time out of your day. Like, but go through it. Find shit that is relevant to whatever. Like, so in our case was like the NoiseROT page and stuff like that. I was like, okay, cool. But I just started going off like, okay, like if there was someone put a live video of a band that I like, it's like, oh shit, like they're coming to this. I'm seeing them here. And I'm like, and then that, again, sparked conversation. And then like random people would like see the comment and then like come visit our page. Like, okay, so making sure the comment makes sense, like it's genuine, like I'm actually like wanting to interact with this. But also making sure like the people that are going to come back to the page, like what's there for them to consume? Like, is it something that they're going to be interested in?
It goes back to MySpace. I'm telling you, PC for PC, comment for comment.
That's so funny. And you mean what you say, right? You're interacting with stuff that like is resonating with you. There's so much stuff out there. Like, that's the beauty of it, is that, there's a million bands in Dallas, and like you're going to dig a large percent of them, if there's a scene that's active. And so it's nice that you don't have to like contrive things to be into, right?
Yeah.
You can just, if you look just a little bit, you'll find loads of shit that you really like
that and you want to like.
You want to interact with. So that's the best part about social media, is that like there's the barrier to entry for people is pretty low. So if you have an idea, if you want to express yourself, you can put your shit out and find people. And so, and the counter to that is that if you're looking for people who are genuine and putting out cool shit, it's easy to find people and, connect with them.
Yeah. Community is the biggest part of that. I think people need to take that. I'm glad that that's the way you guys look at it. And honestly, like I am like stoked to hear all the new stuff to coming out. But, I want to thank you guys for coming by. Like, I really like, again, like you're a newer band, but it's one of those moments where I'm like, from the jump, I was like, this band is really fucking good. I love like how early like I kind of like got into it. And just hearing like how the new stuff is like writing, like I'm just stoked to hear it. Like I'm excited to what this band's gonna do. I hope more people know about you. Again, if you need help pushing, promoting anything, let us know. Like it's anytime I find like a band that I genuinely like become a fan of and like want to support, like I want to do as much as possible, which is kind of why this is started and kept going and stuff like that. But anything you guys need, just let us know. But yeah, anything you guys want to.
Dude, thanks for having us on. Yeah. This has been so much fun. I think like people like you who are like really putting in the work and digging in your heels, like support the local scene, like shit like that is so important,
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of noise out there and like, I'm enjoying watching your shit. And so like, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
Cool. Yeah. And I think it's just about persistence, and even for us as it is for you, just continuing to do the content and just continue to do the music or the podcast or whatever it is. And, just supporting the scene. And eventually, most people say, just put the years in and eventually it helps.
Yeah.
And either, you help pop off yourself or help pop off someone else. And,
it all comes around.
Yeah, exactly. So I think just supporting each other, building like this cool community that you're doing and interviewing people who are close to the scene within the DFW scene is just freaking awesome, man.
Oh yeah, man. We're both doing awesome shit. I like it. Well, thank you guys for stopping by again. This has been episode 135 with Slow Drag, and thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next time.
I don't wanna be alone tonight. Baby, in touch on the incline.